Hi everyone. So we are going to start with the basics of the spin and win game. Okay. So what I have done till now is I have created a folder in which I put the images. I have added the phaser.js file that I downloaded from the Phaser website, and I have game.js file which is a empty JS file, and I have index.html file which looks like this. Okay, so we have the title tag and we have included two JS files, and these files are kept inside a JS folder. So there is a game.js which is uh, empty file as of now. Okay, so we'll try to write some code in the JS file, and we will basically write a hello world of Phaser, how to create the basic skeleton for the game. Okay, and this skeleton will also contain the game loop that we need to execute and run our game. Okay, so let me tell you how it goes like this. So in Phaser, what you need to do, the first step is you need to create a game object. Okay, and that game object requires something called a game configuration. Okay, so you will create a game object using a game configuration. So this game config is also an object. It contains information about the metadata of the game, such as, okay, what will be the width of the game, what will be the height of the game, what would be the rendering mode. Okay, do you want to render the mode using canvas, or you want to render the game using WebGL, or you want to choose whatever option is best supported by the browser of the user. Okay, so another thing is, whenever you build a game, okay, so a game is built up of multiple levels, and you can treat of each level as a scene in the game. Okay, so in some complex games you can have multiple scenes in the same level, but generally you can treat it like this. One scene refers to one level of the game. Okay, but since we are going to build a very simple game, we will talk about only one scene in this game. That is the scene in which you are going to show the spin and win wheel, and that will be the only scene in our game as of now. Okay, so whatever scenes you are going to make, you have to define them in the config object, and that config object is used by the game object to create a game. Okay, so now the basic idea is a game can have one or more scenes, and we will have a config object, and that config object will contain scenes of that particular game, apart from some extra information that we are going to show you. Okay, so let me show you how to create a game and how to create a config object. Okay, so firstly we will create a config object. Okay, and then we can create the game object. Okay, so let me show you how to create a game object. It will be new phaser.game. Okay, so since Phaser is a framework, it provides us a basic skeleton. So Phaser has a game class, and we need to make an object of that class to initiate a new game using Phaser. And let me give the config object here, and here what I will do, I will basically set some properties. One is the type property, how to render the game. So I'm just going to use the phaser.canvas value, so that it will use the canvas API to render game on the web browser. Okay, then we need to specify a property called width. Let's say it is going to have 800, and height, let's say 600, and then we can have something called a background color if you want. Otherwise, by default it is going to be black. And as I said, we need to define the scene of the game. Okay, so scene is again a very important thing in the game. So most of our discussion in the section will revolve around how to build a particular scene. Okay, so now scene is very important part. Okay, so scene basically means your level of the game. So when we build a game, as we have covered in previous games as well, so what you generally do, you first do loading of the assets. Okay, so you load all your images, sounds, or whatever assets are needed to execute that game. You load them, then you create those assets as objects in the memory and you display them on the screen. Okay, so we will have a create method to create those objects on the screen. And finally what we do, we continuously update. Okay, we make continuous updates to the different objects present in the scene, so that according to the game logic. Okay, so that user feels a continuous motion in the game, something is happening in the game world. So this scene object has to we need to define some properties of the scene object. Basically these three functions: how to do loading, how to do creation of the scene, and how to update that particular scene. So there are three fixed keywords that you need to use: preload, okay, and here you need to define your function, how to do loading of the assets. Okay, then you need to define create, and it will be again a function, your create function. Okay, how to create assets on the screen, and update will be mapped with your update function. Okay, so we will try to see how to write these functions as well, but this is how you create a basic skeleton for a game using Phaser. Okay, and let me try to make some empty functions. Let's call this as preload. You can give it any name, so I'm just calling it as a preload function, and I'm saying console.log. I'm in the preload function. So this function will be called only once when that particular scene is getting started. Then we will call a function called create, that will be done using that will be done automatically by the Phaser. You do not need to worry. So this function will be called again only once when that particular scene is started and the preload function has been called. And then you will have a function called update, and you can say console.log inside update function. So this function will be called repeatedly till your game is not over. Okay, so this function is exactly like your game loop. So this is game loop. So if you want to see if this function is getting executed, so I'm just mapping these functions here. So it's mapped with the create function, and it's mapped with the preload function. Okay, so let's try to run this in the browser and see if we get something. Okay, you can see we got this small canvas here. So if I click here and I go to elements, and if I select this particular element, so you can see this canvas element is of the size 800 by 600, and it's not created by HTML, it's created by the JavaScript. And also you can see here the preload function got called once, okay, and create function got called once, but the update function is getting called continuously. That means the game loop is running. And let me show you in brackets as well. Okay, so we have not created any canvas element in the HTML, but that canvas element is created automatically using this configuration object by the Phaser framework. Okay, so this is the game object, and in the game object you have a configuration object, and that configuration object contains a scene, and scene is what is going to represent one level of the game. Okay, so more complex levels can have multiple scenes, but in our case we are just going to build a game with a single scene. Okay, so let me show you how you can change the background color as well. So if you want to put some different background color here, so you can say it's 0xFFCC00. You can give the hex code of the color, and this color will change. Okay, another thing that I'm going to do is since we have the canvas tag that is generated by JavaScript, we can select it in the CSS. Okay, so there is no ID given to the canvas, so I'm just selecting it by the type of tag. Okay, so it's of the canvas type. So here I can say let me increase the width of the game, and let me make it as 100% of the available width. Okay, so that will make it look little better here. Now you can see if even if you shrink your window or make it large, the game size gets adjusted automatically according to the available area on the screen. Okay, so guys, that's all for this video. I hope you got a basic idea how to write hello world in Phaser. So this is basically what hello world is. Okay, so this is the basic skeleton you will follow in building every game using Phaser. And it's not that we are just making spin and win game. Any game that you need to make, you have to start with this particular code. And Phaser makes it easy for you. How? Because once you have this code, you just need to write these three functions to create your game level. Okay, you need to tell what assets you need to load, what objects to create on the screen, and all the updates that you want to make will go in the update function. Okay, see you guys in the next video.